today we are picking up with imperialism and international rivalry and how that works in Africa. The early modern empires of Africa have been struggling with how to cope with especially the European incursions into their lands. And basically when it comes down to it, you're looking at the balance of payment of who's making money in the world at this time. Well, major empires like India and China and the Ottoman Empire are making a lot of money. Africa's kind of grown rather stagnant at this point, especially with the introduction of the Industrial Revolution, which will take place between 1740, 1760, roughly. In that time frame is the Industrial Revolution, and we get the mass production of weapons that will take place because of things like assembly lines and that kind of stuff. Well, what that's going to do is going to allow Europeans to spread their wings a little bit more and take over more land and earn more money and get more and more wealthy. And one of the places that they're going to be looking at to make that money and to gain that territory is going to be Africa. So you're going to have 5 major European players that are going to be very involved in Africa. You'll have the Portuguese, who are there, and part of the reason they're there is for trade, but another major reason is because they want to spread the Catholic faith. You also have the Spanish. So Spain's in there for trade, but also to spread the Catholic faith. This was a time to spread the religion. But actually the Spanish end up kind of being the most deadly to the Africans, not because they kill them with their weapons, but mostly because they bring diseases to them that they had no immunity to. The Dutch are another of the 5 major players, and they are kind of the most important because they're the financiers. They're the ones who are footing the bill to get into Africa. So it's because of the Dutch that we're able to get so much land in Africa and that kind of stuff. The English are very important too, and that's just because they own a lot of Africa. By the time they start getting it divided up into colonies, the English are going to own a lot of it. And the French is the last of the 5 major players, and the French are kind of the last to go out and take over land and try to get resources, and so they kind of get whatever's left over for the most part, what other people didn't want. Now, lesser players in this arena will include the United States. We don't get too terribly involved in this. And the other one is Russia. Russia also makes some moves, but for the most part isn't involved until much later. Now, one of the reasons, like I said, that people were going there was to spread the Catholic faith. If you remember, Africa was vastly Islamic, and so the Spanish and the Portuguese especially are trying to get rid of Islam or the Muslim influence in Africa. They just hated it. So this all starts in 1602 with the Dutch East India Company, who had been exploring through Indonesia, and through Indonesia they had become very, very rich. They were competing with the British East India Company, who was also in India and had a lot of resources like cotton and gold and gems and spices, and their goal was to make money, not so much to spread the religion, but to make money. So both the Dutch and the British are looking around thinking, where else can we make some money? And so they're going to look at this fairly new territory or unexplored territory of Africa and thought maybe there's going to be stuff there that we don't know about. So the rationales for why the Europeans are getting into Africa include things like trade, but also just curiosity, that nobody knew what this whole continent was about, and nobody had really explored it or done any major research there or found anything really cool. So they want to just find out more. There's also this desire for fame, that to make a name for yourself sort of thing, like you're the first one to find the lost city of gold or something like that. So it was a way to become famous and to be forever remembered, and so you wanted to do something that no one else had done before. And then finally the desire to spread the religion is also a major part of why Europeans get into Africa. Now, that's the rationale for why they're doing it, but how are they able to do it? Well, it's because of technology. They had better ships, they had better guns that are going to make it possible for them to get into Africa and to come in and take it over and utilize those resources and take them at will. There's really no resistance to them for the most part. So there's going to be 3 stages of colonialism, and colonialism is where you're owning another country or another territory and you get its resources. So there's going to be 3 stages of that, of how they get to that. So the first stage is a factory fort, and a factory fort is just kind of like a little foothold in the land, and typically they're near the coast, so you're able to get into a ship. It helps you to protect your ships and to protect your goods, and typically much later in Africa's history, these initial factory forts are going to become sort of like the capital cities of the countries that are created later on. The second stage is commercial colonialism, and commercial colonialism will have like all the benefits of the factory fort, but it also includes a little army that you take with you. So because you have more technology or better technology, you are able to bring that with you deeper into Africa, and that allows for better protection and that kind of stuff. So as they are going deeper and deeper into Africa, they are introducing new technology to the native Africans. They are finding medicine for humans and animals that hadn't existed before, but they're also bringing or having to develop new medicine for animals and humans, because now they have to deal with some of the stuff in Africa too. Military weapons and tactics will kind of go both ways. Now the Africans were fairly undeveloped technologically, so they were kind of fighting with machetes and these rusty old breech loaders. They're just old types of guns that they had gotten their hands on, and they're going up against better guns, rifles and later on actually machine guns. And so it's kind of a sad situation for the Africans that they highly underestimate the power of the Europeans. A great example would be in 1898. There is a battle called the Battle of Omdurman. And this Battle of Omdurman is between the Sudanese and the British. And the Sudanese are just wiped out. Total number of British killed in this battle, 28 men. Total number of Sudanese killed in this battle, 11,000 roughly. So you can see the drastic differences that technology can make in winning just a battle. So eventually the Congress of Berlin will be passed, and this is a treaty on weapons, and basically the whole idea on the treaty the treaty on these weapons is that you don't give any to the Africans, don't give them the means to fight us off if we want to take them over as a territory. And it basically is like a notification that we're coming in, but we're not going to give you the ability to fight back fairly against us. So that's the second step. The third step is imperialism, and that's where you take over their government, you take over their monetary system, their religion, all that stuff. All of Africa will eventually be colonized, with the exception of Liberia, which is owned by the United States, and Ethiopia. So Liberia was set up by the United States as an independent state for American slaves to go back to Africa if they wanted to return back to the homeland. So it's kind of a colony, but it's not really a colony because we don't own it as a colony, but we don't allow anybody else to take it. Ethiopia is going to cut a deal with the French and the Russians to help them defeat the Italians. And so because of that, Ethiopia, plus it's also a Christian nation, is going to be left alone. And so they won't be colonized, but all the rest of Africa is going to be colonized. So this is going to lead to some civil unrest. The people of Africa not so happy about being a colony. Basically, the whites, the Europeans who are in charge of Africa, are very, very afraid of what could happen if the Africans got too unsettled. And so they keep bringing more and more soldiers to Africa to protect them. And that just encourages the fear that the Africans had that the whites are going to try and wipe them out, and it leads to more violence. So it's kind of like this cycle thing that's going on. Eventually, throughout most of Africa, they set up sort of like a plantation economy where the natives do the work, and it was fairly easy to control large numbers of people on plantations if you kept them far apart from each other and didn't allow them to learn how to read and write or communicate or anything like that. So it was a way to control the population so you wouldn't get that civil unrest. So the decline of the early modern empires of Africa is going to be because they just were not able to adapt. They just failed to adapt to the changes that were taking place with the Europeans coming in. And that's, for them, that's very different from any earlier conquerors. If you think about earlier conquerors coming into Africa, they were typically African. It was people that they were conquered by their neighbors. So one tribe conquers another tribe. Well, they're pretty much the same, except for maybe a few language differences or religious differences. But you're still basically, it's not a whole entire different culture. It's a very similar culture. And the Europeans just keep coming and coming and coming, and they don't adapt to your culture. They don't change. They expect you to change and would rather you just went away, actually. So that's going to be a big difference or a big reason why there is a decline in Africa's empires. Now, the Atlantic slave trade in the 1500s, slaves were the most important trade coming out of Africa. They will be sent all over the world, but mostly to the Americas, where they will work on farms and be basically slave labor. And they begin to produce labor in the Americas on tobacco and sugar plantations, so that's how they know the plantation thing works. The European traders actually didn't do like all of the trading. Sometimes it was African traders who did it for them by capturing people from a village and bringing them to the Europeans and saying, here, you can have these people, and selling them off. So some of it was done by European traders, but also there was like neighboring tribes who hated each other that gave each other up, sort of thing. Anyway, so African slaves were packed below the decks of ships and sent to the Americas, but also all around the world. And about half of them will die from disease or the brutality of the soldiers on board, or some will commit suicide because of the loss of their freedom. And so these ships are also going to be known as floating coffins as a result, just because it's so much death is associated with them. Now, African leaders are going to try to resist against the slave trade, but the trade was just too strong. There's too much money in it. And so it's really hard to get rid of something when you're making a pile of bucks off of it. So the use of violence is going to sometimes be used as a strategy. Sometimes they'll try to sneak onto the ships to start a riot and take over the ship. They're not very successful at that. They tried to pass laws. They tried to reason with the Europeans, saying, look what you're doing to our cultures and our villages and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it doesn't work. And so the impact of the slave trade, about 11 million are going to be sent to the Americas. About 2 million are going to die on the way. And many are going to move, many in Africa, I should say, are going to move to different areas. They're going to move further and further inland because of fear that they are going to be stolen or sold as slaves. And so these villages become depleted of people, and it does cause quite a catastrophe to African culture as a result.